when I saw this book and I thought, gosh, I better read this, I thought, I'm going to go through this book, and by God, I really enjoyed it. It was, I strongly recommend everybody reads it. It's not a tech kind of book, which was what terrified me, but it's just beautifully written and very emotional, made my hair stand on end very often, and we'll talk about empathy. But I'm going to close this section on AI with rapid fire, like, Karan Johar does. So rapid fire on AI. Will machines or robots, and this is from friends and viewers have asked me these questions, so not just mine. Will machines or robots be more intelligent than humans? And if so, when?
Humans will always be more intelligent than robots on what matters the most.
Which is what?
Human intelligence.
Empathy, for example. Okay. With amazing insights, will AI one day be better than doctors, make better lawyers, better economists? That's not difficult. I'm an economist. Easy to be better economists. Better teachers.
I think all of us will be better doctors, better teachers, better economists with AI.
With AI. You'll work with them.
That's right.
Because I've seen your HoloLens. I've actually
think
used
about
it.
The HoloLens
Mixed reality.
is an amazing example of making better doctors. The first year anatomy class at Cleveland Clinic is being taught using HoloLens. I'm an electrical engineer who doesn't still understand Maxwell's equations. And if only I had a HoloLens, I probably would have gotten physics better.
But there are some cases where AI diagnoses somebody better than a doctor, because especially in rare diseases, because the doctor's only seen one or two, but AI would have got information from all around the world. So you may go to an AI rather than a doctor at some point.
Or you go to both of them, and there's higher leverage. In fact, one of the research projects we have between Cambridge and University of Washington is around cancer research, and especially radiotherapy, because one of the most painful issues with radiotherapy is the precision with which you need to mark the tumor before you give radiotherapy.
Okay.
That's where that tediousness is what AI can solve, whereas the doctor can spend more time with the patient where it matters.
Yeah. With AI's amazing productivity, will the world have more food, cheaper goods, and perhaps even an end to poverty?
And I believe for sure that digital technology, by and large, as the most malleable resource, and AI being perhaps the frontier of it, is going to help us be more productive, help us create more surplus, and thereby, of course, the societal challenge we will have is what's the equitable distribution of that surplus.
Yes.
That's going to be, in the realm of our social systems and political systems, but clearly technology can create surplus.
And it will make everybody more productive. Like, I hate to say it, smartphones. Before smartphones, our landlines were terrible in India. You had queues. Smartphones, in my opinion, have increased our growth rate by 2 to 3% every year, our growth rate, because we're using it all the time and we're transacting so much more and not wasting time. When you wait in a waiting room for a politician, you're actually doing work. In those days, we were just wasting time.
Right. I mean, productivity growth because of digital technology is something that in a country like India can be a massive amplifier of our overall GDP growth.
Yeah. So will robots ever be able to reproduce themselves like humans?
I think the idea of learning is something that is going to be innate in our machines as it is in our humans. And the question is, how are we going to define that? I think the real defining challenge is that what AI researchers will call the control problem, which is you do not want the runaway machine. You want the human in the loop. And how we design it, what's the legal framework, and the moral grounding. I mean, a lot of people, there's this thing in AI that people describe as symbolic grounding, which is sort of key to essentially coming up with cognition. I think what is more needed, perhaps, is moral grounding in the designers of AI, so that we don't create AI that's a runaway.
That runaway robot is the big fear, right? Sure. And of course, one has full faith in Microsoft and the big organizations, but there are rogue organizations as well which won't have your standards and principles. And AI could be, you could get a runaway system there. So that is a worry, but you have to keep a check.
And you have to, and we've always had this in all technologies.
Yes.
And the question is, we've dealt with it. After all, when we had the telegraph first come out, that's the unintended consequence of that was the wire fraud. And so there was both societal change as well as technological change and legal frameworks that all put us to where the technology was used for good versus bad.
So could the population of robots be more than the population of humans one day?
There are more machines than humans today.
Already, actually, yes.
And there is, in fact, an average number of devices I think people are going to have is going to be more than one in fullness of time. And so I think that, look, I think it's the social complexity of dealing with a lot of machines around us is something that we will have to deal with. But I wouldn't go in, I would be clear-eyed about the challenges.
Yeah.
But I would also be clear-eyed about the opportunities.
Yeah, so you say there are challenges, there are worries, but there's so many opportunities that don't let that stop the opportunities.
Right.
Will AI or robots ever have emotions like humans? Can they love or hate or be superstitious even?
These are, I believe what is human is going to remain human. And you can only simulate what we exhibit in these machines as human-like qualities. In fact, one of the most fascinating things in India that we are experimenting with is an agent or a bot called Roo, which actually has...
R-U-U-H.
That's right, which has humor, which converses. In fact, it can act as a companion amongst a lot of other things. But it's still a simulation. And I think for us to recognize the difference is going to be key to how we, in fact, make progress.
But it's simulation today. 5 years from now, it will be creating its own language, its own emotions. It will be learning itself. It will be creating itself under AGI.
In fact, one of the interesting things, going back to Roo, is it's being used by weavers, in fact, very close by here, to come up with new novel designs in handlooms.
Yes,
because
yes.
I had not realized this, but the scarce commodity in handlooms is designs. The master weaver, in fact, has to go create a new design, put it on a graph paper.
And there are only a few hundred of them.
And that's right. And so the fact that you now have essentially AI that can democratize the creation of design makes, in fact, weavers more competitive.
So there's an example of
that's an
AI
example
improving
of
productivity and
ultimately
and
productivity
saving
and human
jobs and employment. Wow. AI creating weavers' designs. Beautiful, because that's an art form that's slowly dying away. And AI can take over that. Wow.
Or
Wonderful.
democratize it.
So can AI robots believe in a religion, caste? Can it ever be, can it have a religion?
Look, I mean,
AGI.
I think the fundamental thing I go back to is AI is going to be dependent on what we as humans decide it should have. Right. So if we should, I kind of always go back and saying, let's not give it qualities that we have not designed into it in the first place.
I think one person who wrote in saying, I'm very worried, can our, globally, not only here, can our prime minister or presidents ever be a robot? I don't know if he's worried or he's hopeful. I'm not sure.
I am very, very happy with our presidents and prime ministers being human. I think that let's keep humans in control.
Can robots replace news anchors?
Prannoy, you are safe.
Keep it in. As I mentioned, there's quite a lot in your book on your personal front, and it had me very emotional and also very hopeful, because there's so much that you learn from what you've been through. Starting with, I think, a message to everybody. As a kid at school, you were not a super bright, hitting 99% all the time. And so all of us...
My father reminded me of that yesterday again.
Oh, I love the fact that he put a Marx poster and your mum came and put a religious poster next to it. That's a lovely upbringing. So you don't have to be brilliant at school to be one of the greatest products India's had eventually. So everybody's kids at school who are not doing 99%, they have hope. No, I mean that positively.
In fact, my daughters came up to me and recently said, "Dad, you were not that great at school. So does that mean like we don't have to do well at school?" And I said, "Absolutely not." No, but really, I mean, the reality is, I think most people think about learning or any achievement as a one-time thing. If anything, I mean, in the context of Microsoft, you've got to hit refresh every day. It doesn't really matter what happened yesterday. The question is, are you able to come in every day with a thirst to improve? That I think, I mean, the thing that I talk about in the book, which we talk about as our cultural meme inside of Microsoft, which I picked up from, in fact, Child Psychology by Carol Dweck in her work on mindset, was this one simple notion that even if you have somebody who's got a lot of innate capability, but is a know-it-all, but someone who has less innate capability but is a learn-it-all, and each day they get better and better and better, obviously the learn-it-all will do better than the know-it-all.
That's a lovely,
and
don't be a know-it-all.
And that, I think, applies to us as individuals, it applies to institutions and organizations, and it applies to societies.
When you get to bed at night, put your head on the pillow, what worries would you sometimes have?
You know, in fact, I would say both what causes me to lose sleep but get up in the morning and get excited is the opportunity that I've been given, everyone in this company has been given. I mean, think about it, right? Here we are in an age where software and digital technology is touching every walk of life, every industry in every country. It's phenomenal. It's the time where what we do, the choices we make, how we show up as a company is going to make a real difference. And that's where I think, are we living up to our sense of purpose? Because Microsoft's identity is, if you look back, we were created when Paul and Bill built the basic interpreter for the Altair. Right there lies, I think, who we are, which is we create technology so that others can create more technology. And that's where my excitement comes from. I sometimes lose sleep because of it, but more importantly, I get up every morning energized because of the opportunity to have real impact.
Do you cry?
All the time.
All the time. I'm so relieved to hear that. Because so do I. I mean, do you cry when you watch a Bollywood movie?
Well, definitely, for sure. My wife always tells me that I cry the most when watching movies. But the thing about emotion as the fundamental driver, and that's where, when I talk about empathy, where I come to it is innovation. Like, take Microsoft's core business. What is it? It is our ability to meet the unmet, unarticulated needs of customers. And unless and until we can...
Unmet and unarticulated, because we as customers may not know what we want, but there is a desire, but we can't articulate it.
Yeah. And to me, that's what is required. If you want to be great at innovation, you've got to be able to have that deep sense of empathy. We do this thing called 1 week at Microsoft, which is where all of the company comes together without any of our current structural boundaries to be able to come up with new and novel solutions. A lot of what I talked about, whether it's the Seeing AI or the eye gaze technology or the learning tools in Word and OneNote, these all came because of the deep empathy of our team members to people around us.